Welcome to Tutors Plus IB English. I'm Dexter Haywood, an IB English tutor, examiner, and workshop leader. In this video, we're going to look at how to plan a top-level IB English Paper 2 essay, and the kind of plan that produces a focused, comparative 7-level response before you even start writing. Because Paper 2 essays don't come from writing faster. They come from thinking more clearly, early. Now, most Paper 2 essays fall into a mid-band. Do so not because students lack knowledge, but they tend to fall apart because they begin with a vague plan. If the comparison isn't clear at that planning stage, then the essay becomes descriptive. If the argument isn't fixed early, the paragraphs start repeating. So once that happens, no amount of textual knowledge can rescue that response and bring it back to level 7. So today, we'll look into a planning method that gives you control, not just the structure. Now, planning matters in Paper 2, not because Paper 2 is a memory test. It's not about how many quotations you can recall under pressure. It's not about listing themes from two texts and hoping a comparison emerges on its own. At its core, Paper 2 is a comparative thinking task. The examiner is listening for whether you can interpret an abstract idea in the question and judge how two texts respond to that idea in different ways, and then sustain that comparison across the entire essay, and that's crucial. And that's exactly why planning in Paper 2 matters. The quality of the plan determines the quality of the comparison long before you start writing. And many students do plan for Paper 2, but the issue is what they plan. They write down themes, characters, quotations, or techniques, and then assume that the structure will appear naturally once they start writing. But none of these are arguments on their own. A strong Paper 2 plan isn't about recording what exists in each text. It's about deciding what you're going to say about the text in relation to each other, and fixing that relation before your essay begins. So to solve this, I want to give you a single planning logic that you can memorize and use in any Paper 2 exam. And it's called careful planning. C.A.R.E.F.U.L. Now, we begin with the C, concept. Everything starts with the concept in the question. Paper 2 questions are deliberately broad. They're power, identity, truth, justice, change. And your first job is to decide, what does this idea mean in this essay? For example, if the question is about power, are we talking political authority, social pressure, psychological manipulation, power within relationships? You're not answering the question yet, and that's crucial. You're fixing the lens through which you'll answer it. And if your concept is vague, your essay will stay vague. If your concept is precise, the essay has direction. Then the A in careful, which is the angle. So once your concept is clear, the most important decision that comes next is, how do the text differ in responding to the idea? It's where top-level essays separate themselves. You're looking for the angle of the text. You're not saying both texts explore power. You're deciding, do they approach it optimistically versus pessimistically, internally versus externally, as oppressive versus destabilizing. And this angle is the backbone of the essay. Every paragraph will deepen it. And if it's not clear now, then the comparison will drift later. And remember, if you're finding this helpful, feel free to click like and subscribe below so you don't miss the next IB English guide. I'll see you there. The R in careful is the roles, the positioning of the text. So you assign each text a role within that comparison. And this is not a summary, it's not a character list, it's a function. For example, one text presents resistance as gradual and internal. The other presents it as public and confrontational. So these phrases already tell the examiner how the texts differ, what the essay prioritizes, and where the analysis is going. So if you can't describe each text's role in one clear idea, the comparison isn't ready yet. The E in C.A.R.E.F.U.L is the evidence lenses. And this is where you choose how you'll compare. And they're the ideas through which you'll explore the difference that you've identified. And strong lenses are things like character development or narrative perspective, symbolism or motifs, the use of setting. And you're not choosing everything, and this is crucial. You're choosing the 3 lenses for 3 paragraphs that best expose the difference between the texts. And if a lens doesn't develop that comparison, it doesn't belong in the essay. Then the F in C.A.R.E.F.U.L is the flow. So once your lenses are clear, the paragraph structure becomes more obvious. Each paragraph should focus on one lens. It should develop the same comparative angle. And it should deepen your argument, not repeat it. So you should be able to say paragraph 1 explores the comparison through X. Paragraph 2 deepens it through Y. And paragraph 3 complicates or extends it through Z. And if 2 paragraphs could swap places, the plan isn't finished. Then we have U in C.A.R.E.F.U.L, which is the unity check. And this is a quiet but quite powerful step. You need to ask yourself, does every paragraph return to the same interpreted concept? Does every comparison serve the same angle? And if one paragraph feels like it's proving something different, cut it or reshape it, bring it back. So that strong essays, they don't add more ideas, they refine fewer ideas more precisely, which leads them into the L, the limits of what you're not doing or why. And this is where top band planning really shows. You consciously decide, what am I not covering? Maybe you're not analyzing minor characters. Maybe you're not exploring historical context, or maybe you're not exploring a particular motive. And this restraint is not a weakness, it's control. Examiners reward essays that know their limits. And by the time you finish careful planning, you've got a precise interpretation of the question, you've got a deliberate comparative angle, clearly positioned text, focused paragraph lenses, and a coherent argument flow. And at that point, writing is no longer guesswork, it's just execution. So the full method then. Concept, for C, what does the question really mean? Angle, for A, how do the texts differ? Roles, for R, what does each text contribute? E, evidence lenses, how will you compare them? F, for flow, how do the paragraphs develop the argument? U, for unity, does everything serve the same idea? L, for limits, what are you intentionally not doing? And that's a top-level Paper 2 plan. And if you'd like help practicing Paper 2 planning, refining comparative angles, or turning plans into full 7-level essays, you can book a session with me, Dexter Haywood, or another Tutors Plus IB English specialist. And if this guide helped, feel free to subscribe and like below so you don't miss the next IB English breakdown. Thank you.